Hi, my name is TAYSOM, and today I'm going to be talking to you about cancer cells, what they are and how they're formed. Many of us hear the word cancer in our everyday lives and we think we know what it is. It's frail people that are getting cancer treatments that don't have any hair. But cancer is so much more than that. Cancer kills people and it makes people very, very, very sick. You may be wondering why a business major like myself would be interested in such a subject. But cancer was a word that I heard from a very, very young age. When I was in grade school, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. About 6 years after he was diagnosed, they performed a stem cell transplant, which gave him about 6 more years with us. And 3 years ago, we lost him when his cancer came back. So today, I'm going to explain what cancer is at the cellular level. But first, I will explain what a cell is and how it functions. Then I'll talk about how a cancer cell differs from a normal healthy cell. And then I will also discuss how cancer cells are formed. So to start off, a cell. A cell is the basic building block of all living things. A cell carries information, moves things around the body, and provides structure for the body itself. There are many parts to a cell, so let's look inside the cell next and see exactly what is inside. Up here on the screen, I have a cell that's been opened so you can see the inside of it. So if we look at number 1, which is the very, very inside of the cell, that there is the nucleus. This is essentially the brain of the cell. It tells the cell where to go, when to divide, when to multiply, and when to die. It is also responsible for carrying our DNA. Now, if you look at number 2, or the yellow thing that is around the cell, this is the endoplasmic reticulum. This supports the nucleus, so it helps transport information to certain places. Next, we'll move to number 3, which is the cytoplasm. That is the fluid that fills the cell, but it's not necessarily like a liquid. It's more like Jell-O. And that's what keeps the cell. That's what's inside the cell to keep it a cell. Then we'll move to the Golgi apparatus, number 4. This works with the endoplasmic reticulum. It takes the molecules that the endoplasmic reticulum has processed and bunches them up and gets them ready to exit the cell. Now here we'll look at the little red bean shapes inside the cell. These are called the mitochondria. They are responsible for taking the food we eat and turning them into energy for the cell to use. Next we'll take a look at these little white balls here. These are called the ribosomes. They are the cell organelles, and they create proteins for the cell. Next, we'll look at number 7. These are the lysosomes. You can think of these guys as the little cell guards. They help fight off bacteria in the cell and dispose of any toxins that happen to be in the cell. Then we'll look at number 8. This takes us back inside the nucleus. These are the DNA of the cell. And then last we'll look at number 9. This is the cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane. This is the outermost lining which protects the cell and also allows things to enter and exit the cell. So now that we have a general understanding of what a cell is, the parts of the cell, we'll look how a cancer cell differs from a normal healthy cell. So on this next slide here, you can see I put a picture of many differences among a normal cell and a cancer cell. So we'll go over those. The deformities are caused from many things. They're caused from many things that are happening within the cell. But when a cell is cancerous, it's usually not just one deformity that is happening. It's generally multiple things that are happening. So if we look here at the cell, we'll first talk about the growth of the cells. When a normal cell reaches a capacity for a certain area, they stop dividing. They've known that they've reached their certain area and that they don't need any more cells to keep filling in that area, so they just stop. But cancer cells aren't capable of that, so they'll keep dividing and replicating, and they just keep bunching up. And this is what we know as a tumor. The second thing is a normal cell has the ability to interact with the cells around it, and so they know when they need to quit growing. They know when they need to keep growing, to keep filling in the cell. But cancer cells are incapable of interacting with other cells, so they can't talk to each other. So they don't know when to stop, and that's why they keep dividing and keep dividing and keep dividing. And then another thing, another way that they are different is normal cells will stick together in an area. They kind of move together as a group. Cancer cells don't stick to another cell, so they'll drift off into the other places of the body. And this is what we know as cancer. The cancer is spreading. Cancer cells also have the ability to evade the immune system, so when your little white blood cells come to fight it off, they just knock the little white blood cells on their back, and they can't get up. And then if you look at a cancer cell, it looks very, very different. There's various shapes and sizes. And while looking into the actual cell, one big difference you'll see is that the nucleus is huge. That is because a cancer cell carries an abundance of DNA. So now that we've talked a little bit about how cancer cells are different from regular cells, we'll discuss how cancer cells are formed from the abnormalities that happen in the cell. Dana-Farber Cancer Institute says, quote, "Sometimes a gene will acquire an abnormality that interferes with the ability to function. This can take several forms: a mutation in which the DNA within the gene is misspelled, a copying error in which too many or too few copies of the gene are present, or a translocation in which a gene or a section of the gene gets sewn into the wrong section of the genome." End quote. A genome is the chromosomes that are inside the cell nucleus that help make up the DNA that are in there. These malfunctions that occur can happen from being exposed to many harmful things like smoke, chemicals, or just a mistake the body made during the process of duplicating. Even though cancer is a word that the majority of us are familiar with, I hope you are now able to understand cancer at a more cellular level rather than just the word cancer. We went over what a cell is, how cancer cells differ from normal healthy cells, and also how cancer cells can turn cancerous. Because of my dad, I at one point thought I wanted to go to school to become a rad tech and specialize in cancer radiation treatments. But after taking a couple of science courses, I decided that wasn't the route for me, and business is definitely a better route. But I still am very interested in cancer because it's something that has affected my life so deeply. And thank you for your time today.